I don't want to say bruisers, but I want to say kind of tankier champions, ones that can build around their kit so that they can survive a little bit more, and that's really what it comes down to. It's about sustaining, it's about stalling, and it's about just always being there for your team. It's not, oftentimes you will see one or two carries on the team, but it's not always about, let's have a squishy and then let's have a main tank. It's more so, let's have people who can roam around. Let's have people who can stay in the game longer, and then people who can initiate better, people of disruption, and people with long-range abilities. Because it's all about stalling towers. The focus on the towers is much greater, I feel, than on Summoner's Rift. Of course, on Summoner's Rift, you can't win without ever touching a tower. You have to beat them down. But it's more chipping away at towers one by one, rather, in comparison to the Crystal Scar, where the towers is everything. You either have a tower or you don't, and you always want to keep that in mind. And it's the difference in how many towers you have that's gonna make, or break the game. And we do have a first pick Teemo. Running through the rest of the bans real quick. Yorick, Zyra, and Malphite followed. Coming up from Amputee side, Blitzcrank, Amumu, and Zyra, all very, very strong champions, especially Blitzcrank and Amumu. Quite a few summoners at this point in the Dominate Dominion regular teams have been very proficient in both Blitzcrank and Amumu, having that long-range initiation with Rocket Grab and Bandage Toss, followed by, of course, a lot of AoE coming out from both champions. With Blitzcrank, you do have the static field. With Amumu, you have Curse of the Sad Mummy. Amumu a little bit more dangerous in my opinion. Blitzcrank can be a little bit more disruptive, I would say. Easier to pick people off, obviously, because you bring the target to you rather than jumping in. But Amumu doing a lot more damage and a lot more team disruption. Very good for team fights. Zyra we haven't seen too often, but has been making a return, I would say, in terms of not necessarily purely support, but a bit of a mix between mage and support. She does have a lot of utility, kind of the same manner as Summoner's Rift, where she can be played either mid or bot as a support champion. She has a lot going for her, of course, and then her ultimate Stranglethorns just does a ton for the team. And with the Crystal Scar, every avenue in the middle, I guess, we say jungle just because that's what we're used to saying. It's more of a village, but in the middle portion of the map, all of the avenues are really, really narrow. So you get into a team fight, you put down Stranglethorns, you're guaranteed to hit everyone, and then if they stay there, you're going to get that knock up on the entire enemy team. Coming out from Field of Vibe, bans Jax, Yorick, Malphite once again. Jax has just been kind of that safe champion, really good at what he does, is a good bruiser. It's very, very safe bot laner because you can push comfortably and you can escape ganks fairly well with Leap Strike. And of course you can duel quite well with Counter Strike and also Grandmaster's Might. Yorick has been, I would say, I haven't seen Yorick as much in recent Dominate Dominion tournaments, but I would say, still a very, very solid bottom laner, really good at pushing, fairly good at dueling, especially with the Omen of Death. And of course, if you start shifting champions around, it's still really good. If you have another carry, you can just put a clone on them, and then you'll have a extra member fighting on your side. Overall, a really good champion just because of the annoyance factor. Yorick, it's hard to take him down, but it's really also difficult to stop him from pushing, and you don't want to engage in silly duels with him. You really want to vie for the right chance. So it's, if you don't have any other specific bans, Yorick is definitely one you can look towards. Malphite. We've seen Malphites pretty much win games for entire teams. The Unstoppable Forced Initiation is great. Tons of damage coming from that, combined with Ground Slam. The attack speed debuff is pretty huge, especially doubled with Frozen Heart, which a lot of champions build anyway on the Crystal Scar for that cooldown, along with the mana pool, and of course the armor does not hurt at all. I would say Malphite also, with Seismic Shard, he has really good chasing ability, he has really good disengage ability, and that's something, once again, it's all about stalling. If you want to get into a skirmish and kind of kite people around, Malphite's pretty good for that too, and once he gets tanky, he can duel fairly well on his own. The picks are pretty much done now. We're just waiting on a couple summoners, but let's run through what we have so far in amputees. We have Teemo, Orianna, and Maokai, the last two still debating what they're going to pick. On the other side, on Field of Vibe, we have Pantheon, Wukong, Rise, and Ezreal. Now, Orianna, not a champion we see that often here in Dominate Dominion. The others, fairly common picks, I would say. Teemo, we don't get to see too often, usually either banned, if there is a summoner known for playing Teemo. or taken away from them. But Teemo, of course, still a really strong champion, mainly because of the mushrooms that he's able to put down, and those give extra map vision. They give a lot of map control, and you can kind of set up fights around the shrooms, chase and kite through them, and that's just no fun for the enemy team. They're really going to have to be wary of that, and late game they might even go for the Oracle's Extract to make sure they clear out any mushrooms on their way, especially because Dominion's all about controlling shrines. You have the speed shrines, you have the health shrines, you have the relics in the middle. You put the mushrooms there. Those are high traffic areas. It's fairly obvious where the enemy team is going to walk through. There's only a couple. You put it on a couple of choke points, and your job is done. So very viable champion on the Crystal Scar. Orianna, not one we see that often, but of course with the ball mechanic, pretty good, especially being able to send the ball over walls and having that AoE slow on dissonance, on command dissonance. It's going to be really good for scouting out, maybe kiting enemies and even engaging, disengaging. Once that shockwave comes through at level 6, it's going to be pretty devastating. And with a champion like Maokai, I'm assuming Maokai is going to go bottom, but if they ever get into a fight together, of course, put the ball on Maokai with command protect, Twisted Advance in, and then shockwave is going to be a really good combo. Really, with anyone who's able to jump in, I would say it works okay with Olaf also coming up from amputees, just because Olaf cannot be stopped if he pops Ragnarok running into the enemy team. But of course, they can run away, they can spread out, they have a lot more time to react to that rather than something like Unstoppable Force or Twisted Advance. So we'll see how that works out in favor of amputees, or maybe in favor actually for Feel the Vibe if they're never able to really pull a good shockwave off. The last member that I really didn't mention is Vayne, coming up from amputee. He's going to be played by Dual Power. Vayne's been pretty much, I would say, in the top 2 with alongside Ezreal as AD carries go for the Crystal Scar. Has okay mobility, not the best, mainly because there's no blink, but has some ability, has the ability rather to chase quite well. The Silver Bolts is going to help a lot for anyone who gets tanky, which is pretty much everyone on the Crystal Scar. And of course, Condemn is fairly simple to land, or much more simple to land on the Crystal Scar than it is on Summoner's Rift, just because walls are everywhere. So any direction you shoot someone, you have a high chance of stunning them, and then you can either make your escape or get your kill with the Silver Bolt's burst. Coming up from Field of Vibe, Pantheon, very strong character. The biggest thing always for me with champions like Pantheon and Ryze is that their crowd control is targeted. It's not a skill shot. So as long as you have vision of them, you're guaranteed to get a stun and or a snare. That's pretty huge in my opinion, especially for tight quarter combat on the Crystal Scar. You get that stun, you catch someone off guard, or as a team, if the enemy team's retreating and you catch someone right at the, on their back line and you stun them, that's a pretty much guaranteed kill. It's really going to help in conjunction with, say, Wukong, if Wukong can jump in with Nimbus Strike and then get the Cyclone, especially if the enemy team reacts to that and joins back in to try to save their teammate. Things like that, it's a really good combo to have. Of course, Pantheon also, with his ultimate, is able to cover a huge portion of the map, get the ganks going for bottom lane, most likely if he goes top. And also, if he's coming back from spawn, he's going to be able to interrupt a lot of tower channels with that ultimate. Otherwise, also really good damage and can be built fairly meaty alongside his damage. Wukong, like I mentioned, has that Cyclone for a lot of AoE disruption. Nimbus Strike, good for initiating and kiting, and also just hits really hard overall. And I would say with Crushing Blow, Wukong is, I would say he kind of epitomizes what a bruiser is. He has all of his kit is everything you want in a bruiser. He has really good crowd control. He has some decent initiation. He has an escape with decoy, and then of course he has an attack speed buff on himself. I think he's just really versatile. Not as many people used to use him, but he's seeing a strong return here on Dominate Dominion. The last 2 members before we jump into the game, Ezreal and Diana. I would say Ezreal, like I mentioned, top tier AD carry for the Crystal Scar, mostly because he still has one of the strongest blinks in the game onto Arcane Shift. On top of that, he's pretty good at poking and kiting, which is huge on the Crystal Scar. It's all about stalling towers once again. And then Diana is an excellent bottom laner. I haven't seen Diana as much somewhere else on the Crystal Scar, but pretty good at dueling, really good wave clear with the passive and also with Crescent Strike. or Crescent Sweep. I forget exactly which what the name of that ability is. I'll have to check once I jump in game. But also a pretty good dueler with her ultimate. Of course, if you combine it with her Crescent Sweep, then you get that reset and you're able to save it up. There's a lot of mind games going on there because you can either use it twice right away to get the immediate burst, or you can save it and get that consistent shorter cooldown on your ultimate. So we're jumping into the game right now. Pirate Rise. I actually haven't seen that skin in game on the live client yet. I have seen footage of it though. Pretty cool skin. Once again, it's going to be Amputees versus Feel the Vibe. Amputees is going to be on the blue side or the top of the screen right now, as you can see. Feel the Vibe is going to be on the purple side. We're just waiting on, we'll go through and introduce the roster real quick while we're waiting on Naked Apron Plan to load in. For Amputees, we have No God Try Science on Teemo, Heavy Blackout on Orianna, Death to Existence on Maokai, Dual Power on Vayne, and Metal Fenrir on Olaf. For Feel the Vibe, we have Chris I Am on Pantheon, Dynov on Wukong, Naked Apron Plan on Rise, Lana Aqua on Ezreal, and Armor on Diana. I guess I didn't really touch upon Rise. I'll take this time to do that. We also have some time once we load in to touch upon some more aspects of these lineups. Rise has also been a pretty notable bottom laner mostly. I have seen Rise go top on a couple of occasions. I mean, Rise on any map, the reason Rise is so good is because you build the utility you want, you build your mana, you build your cooldowns, and that actually pretty much makes you stronger in all aspects. The mana gives you more damage because of overload, and you build things like Frozen Heart anyway with mana. There's a lot of defensive items that include mana, so it really works out in his favor. And then you build some cooldown on top of that, such as Frozen Heart. On top of that, of course, his passive, Arcane Mastery, gives him innate cooldown every time he uses a spell. So Rise, I would say, is another fairly safe champion just because you get what you want by building. Basically, you don't have to split your build in a sense. But on the other side, of course, not as safe as Jax just because you don't really have an escape. You have a disengage, but it's single target. So if you get ganked, you're kind of on your own there. We'll see how the teams start off. We are looking at Naked Apron Plan and Armor both standing towards the bottom. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to stick, of course. There's quite a bit more time. It will be interesting to see, though, if they both decide to go bottom and they send 3 top to begin with. Most likely, though, we're going to see a standard 4 top, 1 bottom start. Meanwhile, on Amputees, we do have Metal Fenrir setting up to go bottom on his own so far. Feel the Vibe still hasn't split. There we go. Naked Apron Plan moving towards the top. So we do have Armor on Diana going to go up against Metal Fenrir on Olaf for the bottom portion there. Meanwhile, both teams are going for that standard start that we often talked about. And Teemo leading the way, abiding the Scout's code here for Amputees. Definitely going to get to the tower first, but Naked Apron Plan actually making some good progress in terms of movement, is able to get there to interrupt it right away. There's a command attack coming out from Orianna. Again, Orianna is really good for this kind of situation, but actually Existence is going to jump right in as Maokai takes a lot of damage, and Chris I am going to jump right onto No God Try Science, but has been exhausted. Teemo still goes down to the hands of Naked Apron Plan. Dynov has now cut off Heavy Blackout, really good positioning, cutting off the escape. Maokai goes down. Meanwhile, a double kill for Lana Aqua, a good blink out, and Lana Aqua is saved with only 150 health. Had to use that Summoner Flash though, but still, Windmill is secured. Naked Apron Plan at okay health. Dynov at pretty good health and mana. Chris I Am returns with that revive, gets No God Tri-Signs, but has been shielded by Command Protect. Chris I Am now in a little bit of trouble. Dynov gets out with that decoy. Again, really good play. Good disengage coming out from Feel the Vibe. Chris I Am in a little bit of danger. Needs to run out. That poison isn't going to kill him just yet, but he needs to escape immediately before he gets caught by any cheeky maneuvers. He's just hiding out in the back just to make sure his team's okay. The minion wave has pushed up a little bit, so Amputees is going to have to take a little break on that aggression. And for Amputees, it's also not the best situation right now. Death to Existence is kind of low, and he's their initiator up top. And, I mean, Teemo can get the poke down alongside Heavy Blackout on Orianna, but we'll see how long that can last, especially because Lana Aqua has returned full health, has brought that Phage, and so it's going to be pretty hard to break that line. Meanwhile, bottom lane, we do see that Metal Fenrir has taken the kill, but the minions finishing the job for Armor, picking up a 1-1 trade in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, top is still just a siege situation. Lana Aqua trying to put down some poke with those mystic shots. Existence hasn't really dropped any more though. If anything, might start rising up with his passive in terms of sustain, bringing his health back up, and then he'll be able to dive in. Dianov wants to make sure that doesn't happen. The jumps in with the Cyclone, and we do see Pantheon coming in with his ultimate. Chris I Am jumps in at low health, picks up the kill onto Blackout on Orianna with just the drop itself, and then a triple kill for Chris I Am. Can he live through this? Yeah, the minions aren't going to target him anymore. He's going to get out with 29 health. Brilliant play coming out from Field of Vibe. An excellent setup by Dianov and Chris I Am. Pretty much a two-man show right there, with Lana Aqua and Naked Apron Plan coming in at the end just to make sure they can do some cleanup if necessary. Meanwhile, Aqua tried to channel onto Refinery, but ping is coming out from his teammates. They don't want to take any risks just yet. I mean, Aqua was at good health and good mana, but of course, if everyone else comes up at once from Amputees, it wouldn't have been a good situation. I would say good call from the team of Feel the Vibe. They have a pretty hefty lead. They just want to keep it. They're not at a point where they've hit critical mass a lot earlier than the enemy team, so they just want to make sure they can protect their 3 cap, which is getting a little bit threatened right now. Naked Apron Plan moving on up, and Chris I Am returning with the Storm Shield. That's going to hurt a lot. Look at that burst coming out. He already has, he started with the Brutalizer, and now he has the Mercury Treads to make sure he's a little bit tankier, he's a little bit more sustainable in fights. Heavy Blackout taking a ton of damage, is forced to run away by using Command Protect and Dissonance on himself. So now we do have the quest located on the map. Windmill being located, or Windmill being identified for Amputees. Meanwhile, Feel the Vibe going to have to push up against the Refinery if they wish to get this objective done. Existence has taken a lot of damage, but there's the Maelstrom. But Chris I Am is going to go for the cutoff. He's going to get the kill no matter what. Gets the good stuff. No God Tri-Signs now trying to make an escape. Aqua actually making a brilliant play. Arcane shifting back towards the enemy base to get the cutoff and the kiting ability. Heavy Blackout now taking a ton of damage, and Dual Power actually able to push off a Dianov there with that Storm Shield on Vayne, putting out a lot of damage. Heavy Blackout now trying to help Dual Power get the kill onto Naked Apron Plan. They're going to pick that up as Metal Fenrir comes up, and Metal Fenrir now pops the Ragnarok, trying to duel Aqua. Aqua not in a good situation right now, even with that damage buff. Gets the Undertow, double kill for Metal Fenrir. Chris I Am's pretty low right now. I don't know if they can contest the kill onto Metal Fenrir. Armor missed the Crescent, but still going to get the kill alongside Chris I Am. Chris I Am gets out once again with only 46 health. Now Existence trying to duel out Armor, but the Maelstrom does finish off. That's going to take care of a lot of that damage mitigation, but Metal Fenrir comes back up with that revive. They're going to get the kill onto Armor, no problem here. Trying to just get the trade onto Existence, but Existence is able to live, picks up that health relic just in case, and then of course back to base. Meanwhile, up at the Refinery, it's been neutralized, but Feel the Vibe are not letting go of this. They know that they are stronger right now. Dual Power has been forced back to base. Lana Aqua actually making that aggressive flash for the kill, and now the True Shot Barrage is going to miss because of the positioning from Heavy Blackout. No God Tri-Signs also trying to escape from Dianov, is going to make it out with just a sliver of health. Gets hit by the Cyclone, but still no worries, gonna make it back to base. Existence is gonna pay for that disengage, though Chris I Am also gonna pay for his aggressive ultimate. But Metal Fenrir, can he be finished off by Naked Apron Plan? Yet Dianov's actually gonna get the killing blow right there. Naked Apron Plan now just kiting away from No God Tri-Signs. They hold on to the Refinery. It's a 4-1 cap. It's been quite a while in this situation. 477 to 233. I would say Naked Apron Plan in a little bit of trouble, But Feel the Vibe doing still exceptionally well. Dynov actually nearly gets the kill onto Dual Power. It's actually going to go to Naked Apron Plan, who must have had the last hit, and Noga Tri-Science left alone to channel onto his refinery for the moment. Meanwhile, at bottom, Armor is pretty much pressuring against this tower alone. Sticking to the 1v1 duel, it's not looking too good though. Armor, I think, just wants to distract Metal Fenrir for long enough. Definitely was aware that he wasn't going to survive the duel. Also just may have been too late, just decided to stick by and put out as much damage as possible before disengaging, or rather going down. Still, the tower had been neutralized, the minions were pushing up, so it took away enough time for Metal Fenrir. He's not going to be able to push up against the Boneyard immediately. Look at that, he's going to go right back to base. I would say a fairly good call coming up from Armor. Existence and Noga Tri-Science trying to cut off Dynov at that Storm Shield, but they're going to pay for it. Ooh, the True Shot Barrage coming down, trying to get the snipe onto Noga Tri-Science. I don't think he would have fallen for it, or to it rather, but still a good attempt coming out from Aqua. Naked Apron Plan going to go ahead and pick up that relic now. Has the Storm Shield. That's really, really strong on someone who can burst that many abilities, such as Rise. Look at these mushrooms already coming up. Aqua's going to hit one of them, and that's on the speed shrine. There's another one hiding in the brush down below them. But Naked Apron Plan is really confident with that Storm Shield. They're going to get an immediate... No, they're not going to get Blackout just yet. Existence also making it out with a sliver of health so far. Dual Power taking a ton of damage from Naked Apron Plan. Chris I Am goes in with the stun. Really, really good stun, saving... Rise for just long enough, and then there's the Cyclone trying to stop Noga Tri-Science, but Aqua's going to go down because of the tower, and now it's Dynov alone. Can he get the tower to become neutralized? I'm not so sure, because Death to Existence is going to come up in time. He throws a sapling to force the disengage from Dynov immediately. Good escape by Dynov, using Nimbus Strike and then Decoy to get as much distance from Maokai as possible. Meanwhile, bottom, Armor has returned, has that Blackfire Torch, rushed the new item immediately, and now just pushing up against Metal Fenrir. Metal Fenrir really hasn't had much room to work with here in the bottom lane. Has been pretty much pressured, had to go up and help his teammates quite a bit, but we're going to see maybe a little bit more action here. Teemo putting down that mushroom. Very, very good call. Chris, I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of it. Not too worried about the damage just yet. I mean, Teemo also has that Blackfire Torch, but that is all he has in terms of ability power. So his mushrooms aren't too devastating just yet, but of course as time goes on, the poison ticks from the mushroom and of course his auto attacks are really going to hurt. So Noga Tri-Science going to look to get that sustained damage out from his kit. Chris I Am and Dynov pushing up in the front lines. Dynov's pretty low though, so I don't know if Feel the Vibe really wants to look for a full-on team fight, if they want to look for a pick-off, especially with dual power. Having that Storm Shield is going to be pretty dangerous. Noga Tri-Science putting those shrooms in on those choke points in the high traffic areas. Meanwhile, bottom, Armor's in a little bit of trouble. Death to Existence has come down to help Metal Fenrir. Existence is low on mana and health though, so Armor might be able to make a getaway here if he lands it. Yes, he does. He's going to pick up the health relic first. Actually, they're just going to bait it in for Pantheon. Draws them in, and Chris I Am gets the kill with the drop. Now going to go in and finish off Metal Fenrir. Brilliant play from Armor and Chris I Am. Meanwhile, in the middle portion of the map, Aqua's in a little bit of trouble. Dual power chasing through. As I mentioned, Vayne has really good chasing power, but Naked Apron Plan with the clutch Rune Prism, but he's going to pay for it. He hits the Shroom. Dynov comes in to try to get the save with Cyclone, but he might go down. Also, True Shot Barrage comes down. It chunks Dual Power and Noga Tri-Science quite a bit, but Aqua's really low right now. They know that Noga Tri-Science is going to live because of Command Protect. Clutch play coming out from Heavy Blackout. Dual Power, meanwhile, finishes off Dynov, and now Aqua all alone has been exhausted. Not able to pick up the kill. Shockwave does miss, but Dual Power is going to clean up and start channeling onto the windmill. We do have Chris I Am moving on up right away. They're all kind of low. I don't know if he can 1v2 them, though. There's a Command Protect, and that is a lot of shielding, but Chris I Am still gets stunned. Exhausted Dual Power, not able to do much. There's a Hex Drinker blocking the DOT coming out from Teemo, and Dynov and Chris I Am going to finish the job. Chris I Am living with 46 health. A lot of people getting away with only a sliver of health this game. Meanwhile, bottom lane, we do have Metal Fenrir just trying to push up against Armor. You know, with that gank from Death to Existence, tried to get some ground once again, but I would say Armor is still pushing heavily. Look at how much damage the Crescent Strike does Armor is just pushing on up really well. Meanwhile, Noga Triscience gets immediately bursted down. Dynam jumps right back in to get some more damage, and before going down, good Nimbus Strike. Chris Iam comes in to help finish the job. Aqua gets a double kill. They're trying to chase down onto Death to Existence. Existence turned around knowing that he was going to be finished off, trying to get some more damage, possibly onto Lana Aqua. But Ezreal was able to survive with Naked Apron Plant, putting out some good damage on that Storm Shielded Rise. Death to Existence comes back up with the revive, but he's alone against 3. Chris Iam starts the channel, drawing Existence out of tower range. Good baiting going on by Chris Iam. Death to Existence now still alone, just trying to push it back with that Blackfire Torch. He also does have that Frozen Heart, which is going to help a lot against the likes of Wukong and Ezreal. Chris Iam taking a lot of damage from Dual Power. Dual Power chasing through, hits the Shroom. Chris Iam is going to get shut down by Dual Power Vayne. Now looking stronger and stronger, has that Zeal and the VF Sword. Good True Shot Barrage combined with the Cyclone now coming up, but Dual Power is escaping from the Cyclone. Really good kiting coming out from Amputees. Heavy Blackout completely zoning out Ezreal. Meanwhile, Death to Existence jumps right onto Naked Apron Plant. Chris Iam trying to get the double kill here. He's going to get one. He actually has a double kill already. Can he get the triple? He's chasing through. The game's over anyway. He just wants to kill before the game ends. But the save by the Bell there, Death to Existence. And that win is going to go to Feel the Vibe.